Hi everyone, Jai Hind and welcome to the platform of StudyIQ IAS in English. And in today's session, we'll be talking about the Manipur peace dialogue where the resolution and reconciliation are again about to take place. And I'm very happy to share this news in front of you that there had been a fresh round of talks that were held between the Kuki-Zo and the Manipur government as well as Ministry of Home Affairs as well. When it comes to Manipur, in Manipur, the ethnic conflict, it emerged on the 3rd of May 2023. And ultimately, this ethnic conflict, it still right now continues to influence the region's socio-political fabric as well. There had been a very long period of the president's rule that was imposed in the state. And ultimately, right now, we are seeing that there is a sensitive transition following the restoration of the elected government in the state. There had been resumption of the talks between the Ministry of Home Affairs as well as Manipur government and the Kuki-Zo insurgent groups under the suspension of operations agreement. Now, what is the core issue that lies in Manipur? So, when it comes to the ethnic conflict, there had been ethnic conflict between the valley-based Meitei community as well as the hill-based Kuki-Zo tribes. And this ethnic conflict, this was exacerbated by the demands for the scheduled tribe status that was demanded by Meitei tribe. As well as there is the land ownership anxieties between these tribes and also the cross-border challenges, security challenges that the complete state is facing right now. When it comes to the demographic profile, so there is 53.3% of the population that comprises of the Meitei tribe, as well as there is Naga and Kuki tribes as well. You can see over here as well that in the center as well as in the south, there is Kuki tribe, and when it comes to the Naga tribe, they lives in the northern areas as well. There are other tribes as well, like for example, Pahari and Nepali, as well as Bengali, Sylheti and Kom tribes are also there in the complete state. When it comes to the Manipur, so the history starts from when it was a princely state. So Manipur, it was former a princely state which was merged with India after the independence in 1949. Later on, it attained the full statehood in 1972. There had been administrative differentiation that were created between the valley as well as the hill. And this is not after the independence or the scenario that we are seeing right now, but it was right after or right during the phase of the British Empire as well. The British colonial policies were that designated the hills as the excluded areas, and thereby there were the clashes that started or the ethnic differentiation that had started. Afterwards, in 1972, the complete statehood was provided to Manipur. Article 371C was added to the constitution, which mandates that there will be a creation of a Hill Areas Committee or HAC in the state legislature. This HAC or Hill Area Committee will comprise of the MLAs from the Hill District, and it is tasked with overseeing the legislation that is related to land, forest as well as the tribal custom. Over here, what had happened in Article 371C is that there are the institutional gaps which have rendered this HAC largely consultative and not, with sharp teeth. So ultimately, this is just a consultative committee that had been formed, and ultimately, this is the major, setback or major point of, you can say, confrontation when it comes to the tribal regions or the hilly regions which are there. There is also the suspension of operation pact that was first signed in 2008 between the center, the state, as well as the two umbrella groups that are there. That is the Kuki National Organization or KNO and the United People's Front. This was the suspension of operations agreement or the umbrella that was signed between these tribes. Now, ultimately, when it comes to 1st of May 2026, this is where we are again seeing a normalcy of the talks which are going on between the government as well as Kuki-Zo tribes and Ministry of Home Affairs and the newly restored state government, which is under Chief Minister Y. Khemchand Singh. They have resumed this formal dialogue with the suspension of operation groups. The first to involve the state official since February 2026, when the newly constituted government, it came into place. Now, when it comes to the stakeholders, Government of India is being represented by the Ministry of Home Affairs advisor to the Northeast, and also the Intelligence Bureau officials were there. At the same time, when it comes to the Manipur government, it was represented by the Home Secretary as well as ADGP. Kuki-Zo were represented in the complete talks as well. Now, this is the complete timeline of the stabilization. When it comes to 9th of February 2025, the former Chief Minister of Manipur, N. Biren Singh, he had resigned, and that had ended 20 months of the intermittent violence under his tenure. Then later on 13th of February 2025, the president rule was imposed in the state under the union government, and the complete control of the state was taken over by the union government. Then on 4th of September 2025, the renewed suspension of Operation Pact was signed, and it introduced the revised ground rules with the stricter monitoring as well. On 4th of February 2026, there was restoration of the elected government in the state, and Chief Minister Y. Khemchand Singh, he was sworn in following the assembly elections that were held in the Manipur. And later on 1st of May, we have seen that there had been resumption of these tripartite talks between these groups which are there, and it is the first formal move towards a permanent political solution that we can see in the state. Now, what is the major cause? The major cause is the federal friction that happens or that is in the state. There are tribal groups that argue that the state government, they have bypassed this HSC or Hill Area Committee on the critical land and forest issue. They view this violation of the constitutional compromise that was reached in 1972. And ultimately, these groups, they demand that there should be a separate administration or a union territory that is the direct consequence of what they argue or what they feel when they feel about the Hill Area Committee and its roles and responsibilities which had been there in the constitution. Now, it is very important that the territorial integrity of the Manipur should be maintained while exploring that there should be a kind of administrative devolution, and ultimately this is a tightrope walk for the union as well as the state government as well. Now, this territorial integrity of the Manipur is very important because we know that when it comes to northeast region or the northeastern states that are there, so ultimately there had been lots of divisive groups which are there. They demanded the separate statehood, and if the Manipur will be bifurcated, the demand for the separate state will again rise for the other states as well. So it is very important that a kind of solution should be reached where we should be able to pacify the demands of the tribal groups which are over here, and ultimately we can take the lessons from Mizoram as well. When it comes to Mizo Accord of 1985 that have pacified the demands of the various tribes, and right now the Mizoram is declared or has been declared as the completely insurgent free in the recent past. Alright, now what are the challenges that comes when it comes to the dialogue process? So through Mizoram, we know that it is only through the dialogues that the problems can be solved. Alright, it is not the arms or it is not the violence that is the solution to the problem. It is the talks that is or the dialogue that is the solution to the problem. Now, there are certain internal challenges that are there. The first one is that there is lack of trust among the factions which are there, especially Meitei and the other groups, Kuki-Zo group, as well as we have the Naga groups. So ultimately, these are the three major factions which are there, and there is lack of trust among them. When it comes to Meitei, Meitei occupies the valley region. All right, and they do not have the they do not have the rights to buy the land in the hilly region. All right, the Meitei group, they do not have the power to or the right to buy any of the land that is there in the hilly region. At the same time, when it comes to the tribal groups which are there in the hilly region or hilly tracts, they have the right to buy the property in the valley region. And that is why this is also one of the concern that is there among the factions which are there in the state. There is also historical grievances which complicates the negotiations which are there, and also the hardline groups, they resist any kind of dialogue process in the state and between state and the the groups which are there, the tribal groups or the factions. They resist it, and ultimately they through the propagandas or through violence or through ethnic clashes, they try to derail the process that is there. There are certain external challenges as well, like for example, the external political actors, they influence the complete process. Also, there are interventions that disrupt the local discussions and even the media portrayal. The media portrayal also affects the public perception, and these are the certain challenges that the complete the complete dialogue process is facing right now when it comes to Manipur. Now, what could be the way forward? The way forward could be that there could be constitutional devolution that could be looked upon. That is, by giving these sixth schedule status to these to complete Manipur. Now, if the sixth schedule status will be given, so there will be autonomous tribal councils that would be constituted, and they will have the complete legislative powers as well, and ultimately that will solve the distress that is among the hilly tribes which inhabit the region. There could be land reforms as well that could be sought upon. That is, when it comes to land reforms, the surface rights could be granted where the individual ownership will be there for housing and farming. At the same time, when it comes to the resources, they could be jointly managed by the state as well as the tribes when it comes to the forest as well as the minerals which are there in the state. When it comes to the infrastructure development, it should be without land alienation. That is, development rights should be provided to these tribes which are there. Then at the same time, when it comes to these tribes which are living over here, because of the loss of livelihood, they had been propelled and compelled to go for the poppy cultivation. As well as Mizoram is very close to Myanmar, through which narco-terrorism it enters into India. So ultimately, we have to look forward for the narco-terrorism measures as well, where alternative livelihood should be provided to these tribal groups, whether it is the hydropower, whether it is the tea processing, or even the organic farming. So these of the alternative livelihood should be looked upon, and they should be thought, and they should be pondered upon as well. When it comes to the restriction of the movement over here, that is cross-border movement, there should be smart border fencing as well as there should be administrative neutrality. There should be multi-ethnic battalions in the state police so that when they are patrolling in the buffer zone, there is no distress that happens between these tribal groups which are inhabiting the region or in the buffer zones. So these are the certain things that we can look forward to, and ultimately there could be a positive outcome that will come through the restoration of the peace talks that we are seeing right now in the Manipur. So that is all in today's session. But at the same time, if you are preparing for the civil services, so public administration is a very handsome option that you can take. And I am writing, I will be starting off with the public administration classes right from 15th of May. So you may enroll into public administration optional live classes, and there will be test series as well. You could use the code BRS Live. Along with this, if you are preparing for UPSC Civil Services 2027 or for 2028, so we have resolution P2I batches. All right, these are GS Foundation batches in which you can enroll, and again you can use the code that is BRS Live for the maximum discount. So that would be all in this session. Thank you very much, guys, for joining me over here. I'll be there in front of you and I'll again take another subject or another topic that is important for your upcoming UPSC examination. But till then, take care of yourself. Also, do not forget to like the session. Do like the session as well as share and subscribe to our channel so that you do not miss any of the updates in the future. Thank you. Bye-bye. Take care and Jai Hind.